Hi everyone, my name is Leye Ajibola. This is my presentation of my Capstone project, which is doing a sentiment analysis of Twitter data originating from Nigeria. I'll be discussing my motivation, the tools and applications I used. I'll go through my project steps. I'll discuss the data extraction process from Twitter, my use of ALTERYX as the ETL tool for transfer for combining all the CSV files I created and then loading it into the database. I'll discuss my data preprocessing steps. I'll also discuss my results for the topic modeling, sentiment analysis, and as well as the component analysis. I'll give a brief demo of my code as well as the use of ALTERYX for this project. And then I'll present my conclusions and the next steps. I was motivated for this project because I have an interest in using sentiment analysis. I also have an interest in data mining interactions in the Nigerian social media scene. I had never used R for sentiment analysis or Twitter data extraction. So I was interested in this challenge of using R to achieve this. The other big parts of my motivation for this project is the fact that social media plays a big role in holding government accountable. We've seen the impact all around the world, in Syria and in the Middle East, and it's in Hong Kong, and it's blossoming now in Nigeria and other parts of Africa. Social media is creating an awareness among the youth, and it is also the primary tool of communication in the current protests that are going on in Nigeria. The tools and applications used. I used R primarily for my code. I used R Studio and Jupyter Notebook. I did the initial coding in R Studio, and then I used Jupyter Notebook because of the advantages that it provides. I made use of ALTERYX for the data transformation and loading into the database. And I used SQLite Studio as my database. I use SQLite for my database and SQLite Studio for running my queries and accessing that database. And I used Tableau for some of the data visualizations. In R, here are some of the packages I used. I used RTweet to connect to the Twitter API, and Tidyverse for the data manipulation, R SQLite for connection to and running queries within R against the database against the SQLite database. I used Word Cloud, R Color Brewer, ggplot2, dplyr, and plotly for some of the data visualizations. For the project steps, I applied. One of the initial tasks was to apply for the Twitter application account. Once it was approved, I extracted data from Twitter. I used ALTERYX to consolidate and export the data into the SQLite database. And then I connected to my database in R. I cleansed and pre-processed the data. I performed the sentiment and component analysis on the data. I also performed the topic modeling on the data. Here is the workflow. Once I extracted the data from Twitter using R, I saved all the files. I saved each data set in CSV files. And I made use of the advantages of ALTERYX to combine all those files. I think over the period I had about 50 something files, and I was able to use ALTERYX to combine all of those files and then load them into the SQLite database. Once that part was completed, I went back into R to connect to the database and then saved my data as a data frame. The data was then pre-processed, after which I performed the sentiment component analysis as well as the topic modeling. For the Twitter authentication, once an application is created in Twitter, I had to go in and within my code, within Twitter, get the consumer key, consumer secret, access token, and the access secret. For the Twitter data, I pulled data for between October 4th and October 12th. I pulled over 1 million tweets. I averaged about 111,288 tweets extracted each day. What I did was I spaced it out. So I ran my query about every 2 hours, between 1 or 2 hours every day over the period to be able to get data, different snapshots of data at different points during the day. For the R tweet library, I was able to use the latitude and longitude of a city within Nigeria. And in order to be able to capture all the data originating from Nigeria, I set it at 500 miles radius around the city of Jos, which is the city in the middle of the country. I didn't pull all of the fields, all of the data available in Twitter during this period because of the volume. I focused on the created date and then the text of the tweets. For the data extraction, as I mentioned earlier, I used Jos, which is the city in the middle of Nigeria, and the 500 miles radius around that city. There was a limitation of the number of tweets I could pull at once. I think you can pull about 18,000 tweets at every 15 minutes. So for mine, I just pulled 18,000 tweets every 2 hours. And you can see the code I used here. I used this search tweets function, and then I set the geocode. That's the latitude and longitude, and then 500 miles radius around this latitude and longitude. The number of tweets I needed to pull was 18,000. The language was English, and I didn't need any retweets. Each time I ran the code, it saved. I read it into the CSV file in a folder. So I created a folder, and you can see here. And I'll explain this briefly. But I pulled the code for each one. I pulled the CSV file and then I saved it in a folder. Over the period, I pulled between around 50 CSV files. And here is the ALTERYX job as a description of the picture of the ALTERYX job. And at some point, I will give a quick demo of the ALTERYX job. So here I pulled the file. My naming convention for all the files was I named the Twitter CSV, and then the date, and then I appended the sequence of the files I was pulling. So each day I pulled about um, between 5 to 10 times. So the first one will be 1, second 2, 3, and so on. Here within ALTERYX, I set uh, the select. This is the select tool for the files I wanted to select, and then I extracted the date from the file name, and then I adjusted the date here, and here this is why I saved it into the CSV file. I used this browse tool here just to check what I was doing to make sure it was correct or going fine. Once the file, once the records were saved the in the alter in the SQLite database, within R, I started the pre-processing steps, and I believe the big question is, why did I need to pre-process the tweets, the text? And that is because the text is unstructured, it is noisy, and it is raw. Tweets can contain emotion, emoticons. They can also contain emojis, URLs, and numbers. But for my pre-processing, I need clean text so that I can generate reliable results. For the pre-processing, I utilize tidy text and use the functions within tidy text to remove the redundant information like URLs, special characters, punctuations, and numbers. I then converted the text into the corpus and converted it to lowercase. The main importance of the lowercase is because I want a word to I don't want a word to be counted as different if it's in different case. For example, if I had God and capital G OD and then lowercase God, if I don't convert to lowercase, they'll be considered as two different terms. But we don't want to do that. Hence the reason why it was converted to lowercase. Once it was converted to lowercase, I removed any additional space so that I could create a clean corpus. And the reason why I needed to remove additional spaces is because you recall I removed all of the redundant information like the URL, special characters, punctuations, and numbers. Those spaces will be left empty. So I needed to take out all those extra spaces. And once I was done, I then removed stop words. Stop words are common meaningless function words like the, of, and is. These words are really of no value to my analysis. And since I want to focus on the important words, it makes sense to remove all those stop words. Below here, I've listed some of the stop words. Things like I, you, ourselves, him, it, what, am, being, and the list continues. For the topic modeling is essentially trying to group words together into topics of words that are things, they belong together. For example, for my query, for my analysis, I did 10 topics. The number of topics you can do vary, but here for mine, I decided to go with 10 topics. You can see for topic 1, it's grouped words like time, thank, Nigeria, life, police, country, God, need, and thanks. You can see here, thank and thanks, you group them together. In topic 2, you see it has SARS, life, God, happy, love, still, and different things like that. Here you can see the different topics it's grouping together. And you notice here that we see SARS a lot. We see SARS, police, Nigeria. as we go further, you'll see the importance of that word SARS and what it means and why it's a big deal. For the sentiment analysis, this is the process of understanding the opinion of an author about a subject. The three main things that go into your sentiment analysis are the opinion or the emotion that's been generated, the subject of discussion, what are we talking about, and then the opinion, holder. So uh, who is responsible, who has that opinion. Sentiment analysis is useful for social media monitoring. You want to see what kind of opinion and what kind of sentiments are being generated. Brand monitoring for customer service work, product analysis, and market research and analysis. Here in R, I used three libraries for my sentiment analysis. There's the Bing, which was created by Bing Liu. And for the Bing, it sets it up as positive or negative. So a word, it shows, does the word have a positive sense? Is this word positive or is it negative? For example, happy will be positive, sad will be negative. And then there's AFINN. AFINN was created by Finn Arup Nielsen. And this is more about the polarity. So it's between -5 to 5. So a word that is very, very positive will have a score of +5. And a word that is very negative will have a score of -5. And then there's the NRC. NRC was by Saif Muhammad and Peter Turney. This uses the emotions, and there are about 10 emotions of positive, negative, anger, anticipation, disgust, fear, sadness, surprise. So I did my analysis on using the three different libraries, and we'll discuss the results. Here is the Bing sentiment analysis. You recall we said that the Bing is positive or negative. And here it shows the top words, the top words that appeared in the tweets, in the over 1 million tweets. And you can see here, love appeared a lot. And love had, as you can see, the green is the positive sentiment, and then the orangey color is the negative sentiment. So the top words were love, protest, happy, bless, won, kill, support, killed, and the rest. And here I just broke down those words, for the positive words and then the negative. For the negative words, you can see protest had the highest number of contributions to the sentiment, followed by kill, killed, shit, and wrong. And for the positive, you have love, happy, bless, won, support. And I did lots of word clouds for my project. I felt the word clouds help to show some of the words. It shows the words that are showing a lot, and I feel that it's a very good visual representation of what we are seeing. You recall here, these are the top words: protest, love, happy, kill, bless, and the rest. You can see here, when you look at this, those words appear well and you can see them. I guess some of them were surprising. Um, um, I found Trump appearing as positive, interesting. I'm not sure how or why, and that's something that I'll be interested to research. I think other ones I felt most of them made sense. So uh, yeah, most of them made sense. Yeah, and when I think about it and I look at the different sentiments that have been displayed or what I see on Twitter, I feel that it does a good job capturing what people are saying. And this is for the NRC. Recall we said NRC is positive, it uses the emotions. And here you can see, here it's showing the emotions generated by each word. You can see here, God shows up a lot in the tweets. And time, love, money, president, brutality, tomorrow, hell, forget, fake, stupid, join, all of those things. And you can see we differentiate the emotions by the color. So for joy, you have things like happy, love, share. You'll notice here that football shows up as joy. I found I thought it stood out that it picked up football as joy. I think that's something that I will discuss later about a limitation of sentiment. Because, for example, if you are watching a soccer game or a football game and your team wins, it will elicit joy. But if you are watching the same football game and your team loses, I would expect it to elicit maybe anger, disgust, or negative, not positive. I think that's one of the limitations I'll discuss later. And here I just show the top words for each of the or each of the emotions elicited by the NRC sentiment. You can see here that for anger, which is surprising, the fact that money will generate anger. So I guess the question is why. So it's money, fight, shit, killing, youth, mad, brutality, force, hate, both. Anticipation, we have God, time, happy, money, bless. For you can see that you'll notice that a word can belong to more than one emotion. You can see, for example, God is elicits the emotion of anticipation, of joy, positive, and then fear. And then you see money too. Money shows anger, anticipation, positive, joy, surprise, trust. And here we see government is negative. In terms of this analysis, I can understand, and I think it correctly picks the fact that government shows up under negative and under government. Police is a big one in this analysis, and you see police generates fear, which I'm not surprised. Here it says positive, but in this case, in our analysis, you'll see that the police is not painted in a good light. Um, here, here, police is also painted as trust, but again, it goes back to the limitation of the sentiment analysis, especially when it is looking on a word by word. It's looking at it as a word, and not maybe a phrase. So here you see police as trust, but we'll find out shortly that that was not the case. So police here is trust and positive. government is accurately shown as negative. Here, this too is another big one. President shows up as trust, but in our case, that's not the case. But president also shows up as positive, but in the Nigerian setting, that's not the case. I scored each of those applications or each of those sentiments to see which ones had the highest score, and negative has the highest score, followed by positive, fear, anger, trust, sadness, disgust, anticipation, joy, and surprise. I think this is in line with what I expect, um, because when one looks at the kind of the tweets originating from Nigeria in the past few days, you notice that people, there's a lot of sadness and pain. So getting um, the negative sentiments as the highest makes a lot of sense. And I just did another graph of the different emotions, and you can see here that negative sentiments are the highest, negative emotions are the highest, and I think that accurately shows what people are experiencing. I also did the sentiments for the AFINN. You recall we mentioned that the AFINN sentiment analysis library is on the polarity of -5, being very negative, to +5. Uh, and what it shows here is that there are a lot of tweets in the negative arena, and see the highest, the one. So it takes all these sentiments, all the words, it assigns a value to them, and then it adds up all the values. And you can see here the highest one was -2. So I guess we'll say that they are slightly negative. But the positives of 2 and 3 are also high. You can see very, very positive is the least. Here, this is a representation of the AFINN, by the value for -5 to 5. And I just try to show them in the chart. And down here is the sum of all values, sum of all the negative, and then the sum of the positive. You can see the sum of the negative is -988,518, while the positive score is 930,976. So we can see that the negative score is higher, meaning that the negative sentiments outweigh the positive sentiments. Again, that's in line with what we saw in the NRC, which has which with the negative having the highest score. You can see in NRC it was negative, one positive, and the next two are -2. So I'll quickly discuss my results. The keywords that showed up a lot in my tweets were people, NSARS, God, SARS, time, Nigeria, love. The ones I highlighted in blue are the ones that are in line with the current protest going on in Nigeria about police brutality. You can see NSARS, that's the hashtag that is, there's the NSARS and SARS now, NSARS and SARS must end hashtags, and they are related to what's happening now. So SARS is the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, and they've been heavily criticized for their heavy-handedness and their brutality, because lots of people have died because of their brutality, and people are fed up and are now protesting actively against them. So it explains why these words are common. And here, from all the tweets, I um, did, the word cloud of the top 50 and the top 75 words. You'll see again that SARS is very high, police is also high, and Nigeria, time, and God. A few things. Nigerians are religious, very religious people, and one. And number two, I think because of the hopelessness with all the protests, people people are looking to God for a solution and praying to God, which can explain why God shows up very, very highly. And then you have SARS, which is going on. You see, there's protest, there's police, there's Nigerian, there's country. I think nothing. I guess people are saying there's nothing they can do. And, words like that. And here I just did another word cloud for the top 75. But you see similarities in what's showing up. See, there's life, police. Police is very showing up a lot. And here too, it captures youth, because the youth are the ones who are leading the protest now. Here, I wanted to show the fact that the tweets vary by day, the themes varied by day. I started running this October 4th and I stopped October 12th. I'm sure if I had run it through today, you'll have seen differences. But what you'll notice as you look at it is the keywords, the top words, which are the words in the middle and the biggest size. Some of them are the same, but lots of them are different. But when you look through, you see that there's a recurring theme. And for the stories behind this, on October 4th here, you can see the keyword was SARS. That was around the time when the protest started. But on that day, there were two big events in Nigeria, apart from SARS. Nigerians love soccer. The top the top soccer teams, the top English Premiership teams that are followed in Nigeria are Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, Manchester City, and I think and Chelsea. You can see this was Sunday, October 4th. Liverpool is showing up here, and then you have United. The reason is Liverpool played a game on that day against Aston Villa, and surprisingly and unexpectedly, Liverpool lost 7-2. Hence the reason why Liverpool was trending a lot on that day in Nigeria. And then you can see here that we have United too. United played against Spurs at home, and surprisingly and unexpectedly, they lost 6-1. Hence the reason why it was trending a lot. You can see SARS, you see people, you see please, God, and then you see game. So on the next day again, you can see the SARS died down a little. It was a lot of people, please, no, God, good. But if you look here, you can see this name here, Partey, Partey. It's Thomas Partey. So the story behind that was the last day of the transfer deadline. And Arsenal, again, remember I said Arsenal were one of the top teams. They bought a player named Thomas Partey. So there was excitement generated about him. Hence this year. You can see on October 6th, it was still the same common thing as October 5th. But you can see this name here, Laycon. Um, it's trending because he was on the show Big Brother Nigeria. And then when you go to October 7th and October 8th, you can still see it still please God. But one thing you see repeated a lot in every day is God, please, God, please, God, please. So I guess people are really praying. And here you can see Nigerians were watching the debate. So you see the debate here, you see Kamala here, you see Trump. So Nigerians were interested in the debates and then um, American affairs. But by the time you start getting down here to October 9th, that's when the protests started picking up. You can see that there are similarities between the remaining 4 days. You see SARS, police killed youth. Again, here is the same here. SARS, police killed youth. Protest again here. And that has been the recurrent theme since October 12th through today. Here is screenshot of the story that appeared on BBC about what was going on in Nigeria. And then you can see here SARS, Nigeria police, Wizkid killing. Buhari is the Nigerian president. You see government, youth, kill, stop, stop the killing. And this was a picture from today showing, all the protests in Nigeria, and it's trending heavily right now, with the bloodshed, stop killing, stop the police killing, end SARS, end SARS. Before I go to the conclusion, I'll do a quick demo of ALTERYX and then my code. Yeah, this is how the ALTERYX screen looks. So you have all these different jobs that you can use. There are at least 300 different tools. What I did here was to pull, I set it to a directory, and then I use this to dynamic input to pick up every file that is saved in that directory that ends as a CSV file. So here, I pulled all the files within that directory. And here, I set the full path, and I set the kind of file I want. I want CSV files, and here these are the files, and the text in each of the files. And here I selected the fields I needed, and I did I extracted the date from the name, and then I saved it in my SQLite database here. I set it to overwrite. The reason why is each time it runs, it can just overwrite whatever currently exists in in the database. So that's how the SQLite database looks. And here, this is part of my code. In Jupyter Notebook, I divided it into 3 parts. One for the extraction, one for the connection to the database, and one for the prep. So this is why I connect to the database, and I set, I created a data set for each day, October 10th, the 4th through 12th, and then I copied all the fields. And here, this is how the data looks, here it pulls the top, it connects to the database here, and then these are the top records top few records. I can see how they look. Here you notice that this has a link. It just says, oh dear. Here it has whoever they are retweeting to. It has the SARS must end. You can see here it has some special characters. You can see it has the links here too. You can see different tweets by people. Amen. Right way better. Here is something that we need to note. You can see it's okay now. This is Nigerian slang, and that's one of the things I'll discuss shortly. And recall we talked about the being sentiment, and we said that assigns maybe a positive or a negative to a word. You can see here about is negative, wrinkles negative, wrongful negative, yay positive, youthful positive. And then for the AFINN, it uses the polarity between -5 and 5. So the word abandon is given a polarity of -2. Wow. A polarity of 4. Wreck. -2. WTF. -4. Yes. A score of 1. And here for the NRC, you can see for the words, it assigns a value, a sentiment. You notice here that the word can have more than one sentiment. So abandon is negative. It can have more than one emotion. So abandon is negative, but it is also sadness. Yelp, anger is fear, negative, and surprise. You can see young, anticipation, joy, positive, surprise. So once I copied the files, I used the function in the QDAP regex library to strip off the URLs. And then I created a corpus, and then I removed the stop words. Remember we said stop words don't have value. After removing the stop words, the other thing I did was to create a custom set of words, words that were not in the list of stop words, but I know don't really have value to my query, to my analysis, and I took all those out here. And here I took out all the emojis, URLs, punctuations, and all the extra lines. I did a count of the keywords, and you can see, as we saw in our analysis, that the top words were good, God, SARS, need, time. And here is the key top words that showed up. And this is a top 50, and here is a top 75. And for each word, when we create, so it separates each word into a different line for our analysis. You can see here, so we have multiple lines for what was one tweet. Here it's I transferred some money to maybe to an account, but it's showing just the top 6. So here I is one word and one line, transferred some money. They are all different lines. And here I'm just showing the top stop words. And this is the graph of the top words in our chart. And here is the sentiment analysis using the Bing. And you can see, as we showed earlier, the top words that showed up. in the Bing sentiment library. And these are the positive and the negative words. And here is for the AFINN. You can see for the AFINN, you did so for the AFINN, it shows the word and then it shows what the values are. And then it sums up all the values for each word. And here, a word, recall we said a word can have more than one emotion. So, for example, we have abandoned here. Abandoned has 4 different emotions. So, what it did was it would divide the score. It's a total of 1. So, it divides it across all the different emotions. So, it's assigning a value of 0.25 to anger, negative, fear, and surprise. And it sums up every time that word shows up and it gives that score. And here's the total score for each word. Yeah. You can see that wrong shows up a lot. It's only assigned 1 emotion and it has a high score. And you can see also youth, as we have seen earlier, has a very, very high score. And here is the top score for each word. And this is for the NRC. So going back to the presentation. For the conclusion, you can say that the sentiment analysis was successfully applied to Twitter data. It shows the limitations of the sentiment analysis because it did not capture Nigerian slangs, as for the example I showed, and it does not account for negation. For example, you can have happy. Happy will get a high sentiment score, but in reality, it could be not happy or not happy, or it could be very happy or not happy at all. Very happy will have, or happy will have probably a positive sentiment, but the full word or the phrase is not happy. And essentially not happy should be negative, but because it comes across happy will be given a positive sentiment. So those are some of the things that were not captured, but it does well in capturing the key topics, the key trending topics in Nigeria now, which is NSARS now, and which has been trending very, very heavily in the past few days, and especially today. The next steps for me is I want to create a sentiment library of Nigerian slangs. I'm considering creating, just assigning maybe positive or negative to a word. And I've already gathered at least 30 Nigerian slangs that were not captured by any of the libraries. And also create a library of stop words of Nigerian slangs, because that was also not captured. As I said earlier, the sentiment analysis on words can run into problems, happy versus not happy at all. And then my next step also is to perform sentiment analysis on sentences, and then compare the results to what we see here, because I think it will be interesting to see the difference. And that's my presentation. And thank you so much for taking time to view it. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.